What if I told you that the life you dream about is not waiting for you in the future? It's waiting for the version of you that decides to wake up today. Most people think they have time. They tell themselves, I'll start tomorrow, next week, next year. But here's the dangerous truth. While you are waiting, life keeps moving. Opportunities disappear. Time disappears. Potential disappears. And one day, you look back and realize the person standing in your way wasn't the world. It was the version of you that stayed asleep for too long. The question is not, can you change your life? The question is, will you wake up before it's too late? Most people go through life believing they are moving forward simply because time is moving forward. They wake up in the morning, follow the same routine, repeat the same habits, think the same thoughts, and convince themselves that because another day has passed, somehow progress has been made. But movement and progress are not the same thing. Just because you are busy does not mean you are growing. Just because you are doing something every day does not mean you are becoming the person you were meant to become. And this is one of the most dangerous traps a human being can fall into, living on autopilot without ever realizing it. Think about how many people spend years living according to patterns they never consciously chose. They follow expectations placed on them by family, society, fear, or habit. They wake up not because they are excited about purpose, but because routine has trained them to survive another day. And over time, survival begins to feel normal. Existing begins to feel like living. But deep down, something feels missing. There is a quiet voice inside every person that knows when they are capable of more. The problem is, most people ignore that voice for so long that eventually silence becomes comfortable. The frightening thing about autopilot is that it does not feel dangerous in the moment. If a person was walking toward a cliff and could clearly see the danger ahead, they would stop immediately. But when life places you on autopilot, the danger is invisible. It feels safe because nothing dramatic is happening. You are comfortable. You are familiar with your habits. You know exactly what tomorrow looks like because it will probably look exactly like yesterday. And while comfort can feel peaceful, sometimes comfort is simply hidden stagnation. You are not moving backward fast enough to notice the damage, but you are also not moving forward enough to change your future. The truth is that life changes the moment you begin asking better questions. Instead of asking, what do I have to do today? Ask yourself, why am I doing what I do every single day? Instead of asking how to get through another week, ask whether the life you are building is actually the life you want. Most people never stop long enough to examine the direction of their lives. They focus entirely on activity while ignoring purpose. And when purpose disappears, energy disappears with it. People call it burnout, but often burnout is not caused by hard work. It is caused by spending too much time doing things disconnected from meaning. Every extraordinary transformation begins with awareness. Before a person changes their habits, they must first recognize that their current habits are not serving them. Before a person changes their future, they must become conscious of the patterns controlling their present. You cannot change what you refuse to see. And many people spend years avoiding self-awareness because truth can be uncomfortable. It is easier to continue repeating familiar patterns than confronting the possibility that you have been wasting your own potential. There comes a moment in life when you must make a decision. You can continue drifting through life, allowing routine to control your future, or you can wake up and take responsibility for becoming intentional. Because the biggest tragedy is not failing. The biggest tragedy is reaching the end of your life and realizing you never truly chose how you lived at all. You simply allowed habit, comfort, and unconscious routine to make the decisions for you. And by the time you realize it, years have already disappeared. The moment you become aware of this is the moment everything can begin to change. Because the first step toward building a powerful life is waking up long enough to realize you have been asleep.
There is one thing every human being on this planet is given equally, and yet it is the one thing most people treat as if it has no value. It is not money, because some people have more than others. It is not talent, because talent is distributed differently in every person. It is not opportunity, because opportunity often depends on circumstance. The one thing every single person receives in exactly the same amount is time. 24 hours a day. No one gets extra. No one can borrow more. No one can save it for later. And once a moment passes, it is gone forever.
Yet somehow, People spend their days protecting everything except the one resource that matters most. Think about how carefully people manage money. They budget it, save it, invest it, and become anxious when they lose even a small amount of it. But when it comes to time, they spend it carelessly. Hours disappear scrolling through distractions. Days disappear waiting for the perfect moment. Months disappear promising that tomorrow will be different. And years disappear while dreams remain untouched. The strange reality is that people understand the value of time only after enough of it has already been wasted. And by then, regret begins replacing possibility. Most people do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they believe there will always be another opportunity to begin. They convince themselves that life can wait. They say, I am still young. I will start later. I need better circumstances. I will become serious when the time feels right. But time does not pause while people hesitate. Life keeps moving forward regardless of whether you are prepared to move with it. The dangerous part about delaying your future is that delay feels harmless in the present. Missing one day seems small. Postponing one decision feels insignificant. Waiting one more month feels acceptable. But eventually small delays become permanent habits, and habits quietly shape destiny. The hardest lesson many people learn is that regret rarely arrives all at once. It builds slowly. It grows quietly over years until one day a person wakes up and realizes how much life has already passed them by. They begin thinking about opportunities they ignored, chances they never took, goals they abandoned because fear convinced them there would always be another moment. And suddenly the future they imagined for themselves exists only in memory because they waited too long to act. What makes time so powerful is that it does not care about excuses. Time does not stop because you feel uncertain. It does not wait for confidence to appear. It does not slow down because circumstances feel unfair. Every second continues moving, whether you are building your future or avoiding. Responsibility. The clock keeps moving for the successful person and for the person doing nothing. The difference is that one understands the value of the moment while the other assumes moments are unlimited. Real transformation begins when people stop seeing time as something they possess and start understanding it as something they are spending. Every day you wake up, you are making an investment. The question is whether you are investing in growth or wasting what can never be replaced. You do not need to become obsessed with moving fast. You simply need to become aware that every day delayed is a piece of life you can never recover. One day, every person realizes a truth that cannot be avoided. Life was never waiting for permission to move forward. And the future you dream about is created only by what you choose to do with the limited time you have today. Because in the end, success does not belong to the person who had the most talent. It belongs to the person who understood early enough that time is life itself, and wasting time is quietly wasting the life you were given. Most people believe that success happens in dramatic moments. They imagine that one day everything will suddenly change, a breakthrough opportunity will so appear, motivation will arrive at the perfect time, circumstances will finally align, and life will transform overnight. People are naturally attracted to big moments because big moments are exciting. We celebrate the athlete who wins the championship, the entrepreneur who builds $1 million company, the artist who becomes famous, or the person who seems to suddenly achieve everything they ever wanted. But what most people fail to understand is that extraordinary outcomes are rarely created in extraordinary moments. They are built quietly, through small decisions repeated consistently over time. The future you are moving toward is not determined by one major event. It is determined by the choices you make every single day when nobody is watching. It is determined by whether you wake up early when your mind tells you to stay comfortable. It is determined by whether you continue learning when others choose distraction. It is determined by whether you remain disciplined when motivation disappears. The truth is simple. Your life is being shaped right now, not by the goals you talk about, but by the habits you repeat daily. People often underestimate the power of small decisions because individual actions seem insignificant in the moment. Reading 10 pages of a book does not feel life-changing. Exercising for 30 minutes does not immediately transform the body. Saving a small amount of money does not instantly create wealth. Practicing a skill for 1 hour does not suddenly make someone exceptional. Because results are invisible at first, people begin believing their actions are not making a difference. And this is exactly where many people give up. They stop because they cannot see immediate evidence of progress. But life operates on accumulation. Small actions compound over time. Just like a single drop of water seems harmless, but thousands of drops can carve through stone. Repeated actions create long-term transformation. The problem is, people focus too much on immediate reward. They want instant proof that effort is working. They want success to happen quickly enough to keep them emotionally satisfied. But real growth is often silent. It happens beneath the surface, long before visible results appear. This is why motivation alone is unreliable. People often say they are waiting until they feel motivated to begin. But motivation is temporary. It changes with emotion, circumstances, and energy levels. If your future depends entirely on motivation, then your future will always remain unstable. Discipline matters more than motivation, because discipline allows action even when emotion disappears. The successful person is not the one who always feels inspired. It is the one who continues acting when inspiration is absent. The habits you practice daily are writing the story of who you are becoming. If every day you choose comfort over growth, distraction over focus, excuses over responsibility, then eventually those choices define your identity. But if every day you choose progress, even in small amounts, your future begins changing in ways you cannot immediately see. The powerful thing about habits is that they work whether you notice them or not. Positive habits slowly build strength. Negative habits slowly destroy potential. In both cases, repetition shapes destiny. People admire successful individuals without recognizing the years of invisible decisions behind that success. Nobody sees the early mornings, the sacrifices, the repetition, the failures, the constant effort done without applause. Everyone notices results, but very few respect the process that creates those results. Yet the process is where transformation happens. 5 years from now, your life will reflect the choices you are making today, not the promises you make to yourself, not the dreams you imagine, not the plans you talk about. Your future is built by action repeated consistently over time. The small habits nobody notices eventually create the life everybody notices. And the moment you understand that every daily decision is shaping the person you are becoming, you stop waiting for a breakthrough and start realizing that greatness has been built one ordinary day at a time all along. Human beings are naturally drawn toward comfort. It is part of our nature to seek safety, predictability, and familiarity because comfort gives us the feeling that everything is under control. We build routines around what feels easy. We stay connected to environments that feel familiar. We repeat habits that require the least amount of resistance. At first, this seems harmless because comfort creates temporary peace. But what most people fail to understand is that comfort, when embraced for too long, quietly becomes one of the greatest obstacles to personal growth. The very place where you feel safest can become the place where your potential slowly disappears. Most people do not remain stuck because they lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity. They remain stuck because change demands discomfort, and discomfort feels threatening. The human mind often interprets uncertainty as danger, even when uncertainty is necessary for growth. Starting a new business feels uncomfortable because failure is possible. Learning a difficult skill feels uncomfortable because progress is slow. Changing unhealthy habits feels uncomfortable because old patterns have become familiar. Speaking in front of people feels uncomfortable because judgment feels intimidating. Yet almost every meaningful transformation in life requires stepping directly into situations that challenge the version of you that exists today. The dangerous thing about comfort is that it rarely announces itself as a problem. It does not feel destructive in the moment. In fact, comfort often feels rewarding because it removes struggle. When people avoid difficult tasks, postpone challenging decisions, or choose temporary pleasure instead of long-term progress, nothing dramatic happens immediately. There is no alarm warning them that potential is being wasted. There is only temporary relief. But slowly, over time, avoiding discomfort becomes a habit. And habits repeated long enough begin defining identity. A person who consistently avoids challenge eventually starts believing they are incapable of growth, simply because they have trained themselves to stay where growth cannot happen. Think about how every important achievement in life is connected to discomfort. Strength is built when muscles are pushed beyond normal limits. Knowledge grows when the mind struggles to understand new information. Confidence develops when people repeatedly face situations that once frightened them. Discipline forms when people continue doing what is necessary even when they no longer feel like doing it. None of these transformations happen inside comfort. Growth demands tension. It demands resistance. It demands temporary struggle in exchange for long-term change. The reason many people fail to reach their full potential is not because life is unfair. Often, it is because comfort convinces them to settle long before they discover what they are truly capable of. People begin creating excuses that sound reasonable. They say now is not the right time. They say conditions are not perfect. They say they will start when life becomes easier. But the truth is, life rarely becomes easier simply because you are waiting. More often, the challenges remain exactly where they are, while time quietly disappears. Waiting for perfect comfort before acting is often another way of avoiding growth entirely. There is a powerful truth that successful people understand early. Discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is often evidence that progress is happening. The moment you feel challenged, uncertain, stretched beyond your usual limits, that is often the exact moment transformation begins. The struggle you experience today may be shaping the strength you need tomorrow. Every difficult decision builds resilience. Every uncomfortable situation teaches adaptability. Every challenge faced willingly expands the boundaries of what you believe you can do. The life you want will almost always exist outside the habits that currently feel comfortable. Staying where everything feels safe may protect you from immediate failure, but it can also protect you from future success. At some point, every person must decide whether temporary comfort is more valuable than long-term growth. Because the truth is simple. You cannot become extraordinary while remaining attached to ordinary levels of comfort. The moment you stop running from discomfort is the moment you begin discovering how powerful you were capable of becoming all along. One of the biggest mistakes people make in life is spending too much time thinking about what they want, while spending very little time thinking about who they need to become in order to achieve it. People often focus on external rewards because external rewards are easy to imagine. They dream about success, money, freedom, confidence, respect, achievement, influence, or the life they hope to create someday. They set goals based on outcomes they desire and become obsessed with reaching those destinations. But what many fail to understand is that goals alone do not transform lives. The real transformation begins when a person stops asking what they want from life and starts asking what kind of person they must become to earn the future they desire. Imagine someone says they want success. That sounds powerful, but success itself is only a result. The deeper question is whether that person has developed the habits, mindset, discipline, resilience, and consistency required to sustain success when it arrives. Another person may say they want confidence, but confidence is not something that magically appears because you wish for it. Confidence is built through repeated action, through keeping promises to yourself, through facing fear enough times that fear begins losing control over your decisions. In every case, the outcome people chase is simply a reflection of the person they have become internally. This is why identity matters more than motivation. Most people attempt change by focusing only on behavior. They say they want to wake up earlier, become healthier, work harder, stop procrastinating, improve discipline, or achieve greater results. These intentions are good, but they often fail because behavior alone is temporary when identity remains unchanged. If a person sees themselves as lazy, they will continue returning to habits that reinforce laziness. If a person believes they are inconsistent, they will continue making decisions that support inconsistency. No matter how strong temporary motivation becomes, people eventually return to the identity they believe about themselves. Real transformation happens when identity changes first. Instead of saying, I want to exercise more, a person begins saying, I am becoming someone who values discipline and health. Instead of saying, I want financial freedom, they begin seeing themselves as someone who manages resources wisely and thinks long-term. Instead of saying, I want confidence, they begin identifying as a person who takes action despite fear. The moment identity shifts, decisions begin changing naturally because behavior always follows belief. The challenge is that changing identity requires honesty. It demands that a person confront the version of themselves they have been accepting for years. Many people have become comfortable carrying identities created by past failures, negative experiences, criticism from others, or limitations they unconsciously accepted as permanent truth. They believe they are not capable enough, not disciplined enough, not talented enough, not intelligent enough, or not strong enough to create meaningful change. Over time, these beliefs become internal stories, repeated so often that they begin feeling permanent. But identity is not fixed. The person you are today is largely the result of repeated thoughts and repeated actions, and both can be changed. Every decision you make is casting a vote for the person you are becoming. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you reinforce strength. Every time you choose learning over distraction, you reinforce growth. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen trust in your own character. Slowly, through repeated choices, identity begins transforming. The powerful future you desire stops feeling distant because you are actively becoming the person capable of creating it. Life does not simply reward desire. It rewards alignment between character and action. The world eventually responds to who you consistently prove yourself to be. The reason some people remain trapped for years is because they focus only on changing circumstances, while ignoring the person creating those circumstances. But the moment you stop asking what you want and begin deciding who you must become, everything begins shifting. Because lasting success is never about chasing outcomes. It is about becoming the kind of person for whom those outcomes become inevitable. The greatest tragedy in life is not failure. Most people spend so much time fearing failure that they convince themselves it is the worst possible outcome. They become afraid of making mistakes, afraid of embarrassment, afraid of losing, afraid of trying something and discovering that success does not come immediately. Because of this fear, they begin avoiding risks and delaying action. But failure has never been life's greatest danger. Failure teaches lessons. Failure builds resilience. Failure creates wisdom that success alone can never provide. The true tragedy is something far more dangerous. It is reaching the later years of your life and realizing that you carried enormous potential within you, but you never gave yourself permission to use it. There are countless people walking through life with dreams they once believed in deeply. At some point, they imagined becoming something extraordinary. They wanted to build something meaningful, create freedom for themselves, inspire others, leave behind a legacy they could be proud of. But slowly, over time, life taught them to postpone those ambitions. Responsibilities appeared, fear grew stronger, doubt became louder, comfort became familiar. And little by little, the dreams that once felt alive were pushed further into the future. The dangerous thing is that most people do not abandon their dreams intentionally. They simply delay action repeatedly until delay becomes permanent. One of the most destructive words people use is the word later. Later sounds harmless. It sounds responsible. It creates the illusion that action is still part of the plan. People tell themselves they will start later when they feel more confident, when circumstances improve, when they have more money, when life becomes less stressful, when the timing feels perfect. But later is often just fear disguised as patience. The truth is that the perfect moment people are waiting for rarely arrives. Life does not organize itself around your comfort. Conditions may change, but uncertainty never fully disappears. And while people wait endlessly for better circumstances, time continues moving forward without asking permission. What makes this reality so dangerous is that human beings naturally assume there will always be more time. Youth creates the illusion of endless opportunity. Good health creates the illusion of permanence. Routine makes people forget how quickly years disappear. But time is unpredictable. None of us knows exactly how many opportunities remain. None of us knows how many years we have left to build the future we imagine. Yet people behave as though tomorrow is guaranteed. They waste today believing tomorrow will always offer another chance. The problem is, someday has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. At some point, every human being will face an unavoidable moment of reflection. It may come years from now, when life slows down enough to force honesty. In that moment, people begin looking backward. They think about everything they wanted to do, everything they planned to become, every opportunity they delayed because fear convinced them waiting was safer than acting. And regret begins speaking loudly. Not regret over mistakes made, but regret over actions never taken. The pain of wondering what could have happened often becomes heavier than the pain of failure itself. The people who transform their lives understand one powerful truth. There will never be a perfect time to begin. Courage is not waiting until fear disappears. Courage is deciding that action matters more than fear. Change begins the moment a person stops negotiating with excuses and accepts full responsibility for their future. Nobody else will create the life you want for you. Nobody else can recover the time already lost. The responsibility belongs entirely to you. One day life will ask a question that no one can avoid. Did you become the person you were truly capable of becoming, or did you spend your life waiting for conditions that never arrived? The answer to that question is being created by your decisions right now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not someday in the future. Right now. Because the opportunity to change your life has never belonged to some distant future version of yourself. It belongs to the person reading this in this exact moment. Wake up now, because the greatest danger is not failing at your dreams. The greatest danger is running out of time before ever giving yourself the chance to pursue. One day, life will ask you a question. Did you become the person you were capable of becoming? And when that day comes, make sure your answer is not filled with regret. Wake up now, before time teaches you the lesson you refused to learn early.